With Bitcoin still roughly 50% off its all-time high, we're going whale watching. That is, Bitcoin whales. I quantify compelling Bitcoin whale activity on today's REKTelligence report. As a friendly reminder, everything in today's show is for informational purposes only. There is no investment advice given. All right, let's get into the show. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm David. This is the All Markets Report where I quantify across asset classes with an eye to the week ahead. And this week, it's about Bitcoin because we're going to go whale watching, the Bitcoin whale watching kind. Let's get into it. With Bitcoin still in the neighborhood of roughly 50% off its all-time high, I'm going to turn my attention today to watching Bitcoin whales, or at least baby whales. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. So on top here, we've got a daily chart, basically the modern era of Bitcoin, 2020 to the present, COVID to the present. And on the bottom, we see an indicator which is displaying the sum count of unique Bitcoin transfers as long as their value is greater than $100,000. Okay, so we all know there are early OG whales who own thousands of Bitcoin. Really not talking necessarily about them, although we could be. We are talking about, however, pretty reasonably large transactions, unique transactions on any given day. And you can see right now, lower right-hand corner, the white box shows where we are currently, which is a fairly low number of these whale or baby whale transactions, roughly 4,000 per day in that neighborhood right now. I think the week ended slightly under that. And you can see this has certainly happened in the past, just in the modern era, 2020 to the present, but it's not the usual activity. Obviously, if we see a very high reading like you do in 2021, this shows huge transactions, or at least a lot of these transactions, I should say, in Bitcoin. Before we go any further, I just want to point out for new folks that the REKTelligence score is a single formula that bakes into it a lot of dimensions or metrics, including profit factor, win rate, edge quality, return efficiency, how fast does capital turn over, that can be important to a lot of traders, and of course, drawdown risk. All of these dimensions are baked into this REKTelligence score, which is 0 to 100. The higher, the better the score. Traders, crypto is not a wild, unruly market. It's an asset class with 500% more time for price discovery and opportunity. My new course, Crypto Trader's Edge, is now live through Algo Advantage, one of the top quant pods and academies out there. A full systematic framework, backtesting, strategy development, validation, real edges with full code, not hype. Links in the description or head to my Substack at REKTelligence. Now back to the show. Time to quantify this, and I'm going to start with a level that's above where we are currently, which is around 4,000 transactions per day. This is 10,000, so we're going to look at buying Bitcoin with a 90-day hold here if daily transactions meeting the requirements we laid out are less than or equal to 10,000 transactions per day of this size. And you can see 23 instances. The hit rate is 60.9%, profit factor 1.59. Definitely there is a positive edge here, and yet we can see the risk is pretty great. So 90 days out, there's a positive edge. We can see, however, that the risk in terms of drawdown, you can see max equity drawdown on screen from TradingView, 68.35. On the left side panel, where it says real max drawdown, that is a different calculation, more standard than TradingView's. That's 73.86%, pretty rough. So again, summary here at this higher level, there is an edge, clearly. We do get an R score. There are enough trades here, 23, to create an R score or REKTelligence score of 47.9. It's kind of in the middle. It's not too exciting, but it does show that there is some edge, but it comes with a lot of risk. That's why the score is much lower than it would be otherwise. It's being penalized by that max drawdown risk. So keep that in mind. That is part of the R score. Now let's move on to a 180-day hold, roughly 6 months. Everything else the same. 11 instances now. By the way, there is no REKTelligence score here because there are just too few instances to calculate it according to my filter in TradingView. And yet some metrics improve, right? Hit rate, profitability, 72.73%. Profit factor now much better at 2.79. Again, only 11 instances, but it's a pretty good profit factor. And yet we still have that persistent drawdown. So again, the edge improves with more time, but there is still that hold risk. At least historically, we see the worst drawdown with this hold time, 2022 in the bear market, very late in that year. Things got very ugly at that time, if you were there and remember. All right, let's look at one more, which is a 1-year hold. And we can see this now narrows it down to 5 instances, right? Because the longer hold time prevents new entries. And we can see total P&L over 1,000%, 1,200%. In fact, average win 180.15%, average loss 10.11. So a year's time now is dramatically improving things. Although again, that real max drawdown, 75 and change percent, pretty rough. Hit rate is only 60% here. Profit factor, though, really awesome on only 5 instances where there's a lot of variation in the profit factor and other metrics for that matter, is 16.26. So we've got a sense of a slightly higher level. Let's look at the current level and quantify that. All right, now let's switch to current levels, where daily transactions of these whales or baby whales are less than or equal to 4,000 unique transactions per day, a much lower level. And we can see only 5 instances, even with a very short-term 30-day hold. So obviously we don't have a lot of data. The hit rate is 4 out of 5. That's 80%. Average win, 24.4%. Average loss, 0.08, not even 1%. And we can see this is 14.29% in terms of real max drawdown. This is much less drawdown here, at least over a short period of time, 30 days. We'll see if that holds up as we extend the hold time. Let's look at this in another way through Strategy Analyzer. This is an app I've created that should launch later this month in April. You can check it out on my site. But this is a summary of the overview, and we can see some of those same stats, just a little bit prettier with additional stats, importantly, like annualized return, MAR ratio, average win to loss ratio, and more. But again, you can see the average win to average loss ratio, for example, that bottom row to the right-hand side, you see 23.789. The average win here dwarfs the average loss with this 30-day hold. And remember, risk is defined by TradingView here, pretty low, and even the real max drawdown was pretty low. So we're looking at a very different picture at current levels, at least based on the modern era, 2020 to the present, than we did with the 10,000 level. This is much more bullish in my view. Now, again, 30-day hold, still the same hold time, same data, just displayed differently. Here's a scatter plot from Strategy Analyzer, and we see 28.7%, 37.2%. The one loss down there in the middle, trade number 3, 0.8% negative. That is, again, just a tiny little loss. And we see then 26.2% and 5.6%. These are all the gains there above that 0% line. Now, let's move to a 90-day hold time. And we have 4 instances now, and they're all profitable 2020 to the present. Average win, 50.58%. And of course, that's the average trade too, because we don't have any losses. Again, just 4 data points, but it's somewhat compelling. Our score, we don't have enough trades to calculate. And real max drawdown, even with a 90-day hold, is pretty modest, under 20% drawdown here. And profit factor doesn't calculate because there are no losses. So it's a divide by 0 issue. You can't calculate a profit factor. So hypothetically speaking, an infinite profit factor. Let's go now to 180 days. Average win, which is, again, the only result because there are no losses, 3 instances. Average win is 97.39%. Again, no R score. Max drawdown is really pretty reasonable for Bitcoin, needless to say. And the same comments. We have very few instances, but they are compelling. Let's extend this out to a 1-year hold time. And we have 2 instances now, and they're both profitable. We can see average win is over 500%. It's just remarkable, 547.92%. We see real max drawdown, 25.16%, still reasonable for a year hold time in Bitcoin of all assets. And again, more time here is really attractive with not that much more risk. Okay, let's look at those 2 trades as well. We can see one of them from March of 2020, hold it a year and exit. That is 941.13%. And the last completed bear market, which was 2022, in December it entered and closed out in December of 2023. That was 154.72%. And you can see top row, which is not in the box, that is the current open trade, and that is open since March 21st. And of course, with this 1 year hold time, has quite some time to go. It's slightly underwater at negative 2.32%, but obviously not by much. Conceivably, if history is a good guide with so few instances, which is a question mark, we could see another 20 and change percent drawdown. But so far, we're not seeing that to date. All right, folks, if you're interested in Strategy Analyzer, an app for TradingView, very quick and fast to use and gives you really enhanced metrics, or Edge Engine, getting on the list for that as well. That's a real-time scanner that'll be out probably in May, or enrolling for my crypto course, which I spent the better part of a year on. It's incredibly in-depth, full code, money-back guarantee. You can find it all at tradingfromparadise.com. Again, that's my website, tradingfromparadise.com. Thanks for watching today's All Markets Report. We covered Bitcoin, whales or baby whales. I wanted to cover some equities and credit, but I'm a little bit under the weather, so I kept it short and sweet. Folks, I will see you in Substack Notes, where I'm active throughout the week, as well as on Thursday, I will release my Edge Report video. For now, trade smart, live well, and cheers from the Caribbean.